He used to say it like a prayer and a complaint at once. I need to earn more. Markus said it on his way out the door, over microwave dinners, and under the dim light of his laptop at midnight. You could see the fatigue carved into the corners of his eyes, the lines where effort met disappointment. He ran a small business, paid his bills on time, and never missed a shift, yet every month felt like starting from zero. That persistent ache, working hard without seeing your money grow, had become his story. I met him at his kitchen table, where piles of unopened statements formed ragged little mountains. The house smelled of coffee and printer ink. A child's crayon drawing was pinned to the fridge, a quiet reminder of bills that mattered beyond balance sheets. I don't understand where it all goes, he told me, spreading receipts like a map of his frustration. His voice was earnest, not bitter, just exhausted by the absence of progress. As someone who has guided many through that same fog, I recognized the real enemy was not his paycheck but the lack of direction. Markus had no map, only motion. The result: invisible leaks, random priorities, and the sense that tomorrow's efforts would finally fix what yesterday's never did. In that moment, I felt the responsibility of a guide and the optimism of someone who has seen ordinary people change course in months, not years. There was a small moment of relief when he admitted the truth. He wanted more than to work harder. He wanted a plan that actually turned effort into surplus. We didn't need magic or complicated spreadsheets. We needed a rule so simple he could follow it without getting lost. Organize what you own, eliminate what drains you, and create steady growth. 90 days is not an eternity. It's enough to rewire habits and start seeing real breathing room. If any of this sounds familiar, if you know the ache of long hours with little progress, tap like if it resonates. Now tell me, what's your biggest financial pain today? Lack of surplus, disorganization, or debt? Comment below and subscribe to follow Markus's 90-day change. Next, I'll show you how he began. The first step to organize everything so nothing important gets left behind. The kitchen light hummed above a scattering of envelopes and a small rectangle of glowing phone screen. Markus sat at the table, sleeves rolled, jaw clenched, repeating the line he'd lived by for years. I need to earn more. His reflection in the dark window looked tired in a way paychecks couldn't fix. He'd worked overtime, picked up gigs, cut back on dinners out, and still the balance never seemed to grow. That night, a folder of bills felt heavier than it should, each one a quiet accusation. Not enough planning, not enough direction. I found him there, not as a judge but as someone who's watched the story play out hundreds of times. You don't need to earn more to start feeling free, I said, settling opposite him. Markus' laugh was half a scoff, half a hope. That's exactly what I've been trying to do, he replied. The room smelled of coffee and worry. His hands, calloused from years of honest work, trembled as he pushed a spreadsheet toward me. Messy notes, forgotten subscriptions, one-off payments buried in the margins. The chaos was the enemy, not his paycheck. We didn't begin with complicated formulas. We began with a single question. Where is your money right now? He listed things aloud: mortgage, utilities, a gym membership he hadn't used in months, streaming services, car expenses. The occasional impulse by that felt harmless until it wasn't. Saying them made them real. You're not failing, I told him. You're simply blind to the leaks. His shoulders lowered a fraction. Relief is small at first, then contagious. We turned the table into a map. Each envelope became a territory to understand, not a battlefield. He told stories as he sorted. A forgotten subscription that marked a phase in his life. A recurring payment he'd assumed was too small to bother with. We laughed at the absurdity and paused at the shame. That mixture, humor and honesty, gave him permission to keep going. Show me something I can do tonight, he asked. I handed him one simple action to start. A clear list, 3 columns, fixed essentials, variable essentials, and the rest. No judgment, no perfection. Just visibility. He took the pen like a man taking the first step on a hike he'd avoided for years. If you're watching and feeling a knot in your chest, tell me below. Is it lack of surplus, disorganization, or debt that keeps you up? Subscribe if you want to follow Markus' next steps. Tomorrow, we begin the 3-step rule, starting with the first and most liberating move, organize. The kitchen light hummed over a table scattered with bills, a half-drunk mug cooling beside a phone that buzzed with yet another low-balance alert. Markus sat there, shoulders tense, as if the papers themselves pressed down on him. I sat across, not with a lecture but with a pad and a quiet confidence. "We're not chasing income," I said. "We're making what you already earn work for you." He looked up, surprised at how simple the sentence felt and how foreign. The first night wasn't dramatic. It was ordinary, the kind of ordinary that hides stress until the truth is unavoidable. We began with a ritual I teach to anyone ready to stop guessing. The simple map. No fancy apps, no intimidating spreadsheets. Cash flow in, cash flow out, and the 3 buckets we'd used to give his money a purpose. Markus labeled envelopes, essentials, savings, growth, and for the first time his money stopped being a rumor and became a plan. There was a small, almost comical moment when he held up an envelope marked growth, like it was an artifact. Then he smiled, embarrassed, because hope felt childish after years of worry. But hope is the first ingredient of change. The next step cracked open the invisible drains. We looked at the routine purchases that had lived on autopilot. A streaming service he barely used, a gym membership paid for more in guilt than in attendance, daily lunches that added up to a small monthly salary. I asked him to tell the truth about habits he defended as little luxuries. He did, and the confession wasn't shameful. It was liberating. We trimmed quietly, respectfully, not austerity, but intention. Each cut created a tiny surplus, and his face softened as the numbers rearranged themselves into something manageable. By day 14 he had 3 simple accounts, a weekly check-in ritual, and the first visible surplus in months. He wasn't suddenly rich. He was steady, and steady is where real change grows. If this feels familiar, the overwhelm, the hidden leaks, tap like and tell me below. What's your biggest financial pain today? Lack of surplus, disorganization, or debt? Stay with us. Next, Markus learns how to turn those small surpluses into predictable growth. The next morning, Markus sits at his kitchen table, a single lamp cutting a warm circle through the dim. Coffee steams, papers scatter like the small regrets of years. Old bank statements, receipts from forgotten subscriptions, a retirement statement half buried under a takeout menu. He breathes, then opens the spreadsheet we built together, simple columns, clear headings. Income, fixed costs, variable spends, goals. He speaks aloud as if talking to a teammate. Okay, mortgage, utilities, car, done. Groceries, dining out, tracked. The words slow him down. Naming each line gives it shape, and shape becomes choice. Neighbors' voices through the window, the house waking up, and with each entry Markus's face changes. The overwhelm softens into order. He sets up a bill calendar on his phone, then automates 3 payments. Rent, insurance, a modest emergency cushion. It's not dramatic, no neon lights, no get-rich promises, just small, reliable rhythms. He labels a savings account 90-day surplus and schedules a weekly transfer, an ironclad decision that turns intention into habit. When his partner comes in, she notices the list on the table and says, "This looks doable." He smiles, surprised at how doable feels like hope. There are moments of resistance. Markus finds a streaming service he forgot he paid for and his stomach tightens. He scrolls through a bank app, sees a pattern of tiny withdrawals that add up like a slow leak. Here the plan matters. Instead of guilt, he flags the drain and decides, no dramatic cut, just thoughtful pruning. He practices saying no to impulse buys and practices saying yes to a future where the paycheck stretches. I sit with him, a steady voice suggesting priorities. Protect essentials, trim what doesn't serve, direct the rest toward growth. He writes one bold line at the top of his sheet. Clarity before speed. By day 10 the paper pile is smaller, the lamp light steadier. He sleeps deeper. The clarity gives him energy to act instead of react. If this moment resonates, if your nights feel like Markus's once did, pause and tell me. What's your biggest financial pain today? Lack of surplus, disorganization, or debt? Comment below. Give this video a small like if it helped, and stay with us. Next, we'll expose the invisible leaks that are silently draining your income and show exactly how Markus stopped them. The kitchen light was low. Bills and a laptop cast long shadows across Markus's table. He rubbed his temple, but this time the worry looked different. Less like a storm and more like the weather clearing. "Okay," he said aloud as if trying on the word. I sat opposite him, not with a lecture but with a checklist turned conversation. Start where you are. Small clarity beats perfect plans. We began by naming the noise. Monthly subscriptions he hadn't used in months, 2 insurance policies that overlapped, a coffee habit that added up like a small tax. Markus tapped each figure into a simple spreadsheet I'd taught him. His finger hovered over the total, and then he smiled, incredulous. There, in black and white, was the first real margin he'd seen in years. It wasn't much yet, but it was his. "Will this actually last?" he asked, the worry returning like a familiar visitor. "It won't be a miracle," I told him, "but it will be steady." We set up a rhythm. One evening to organize, one morning to prune waste, one automated transfer to seed growth. He learned to speak money's language without shame, labeling envelopes, canceling a subscription mid-year, negotiating a lower rate on an old loan. Each small victory made him move differently through his day. Choosing lunch at home, scheduling errands to save gas, checking balances without flinching. Then came the first real test. A car repair ate into the new margin, and old habits whispered to replenish with a credit card. Markus paused, looked at the labeled envelopes and chose differently. He moved a portion from the growth bucket, paid the mechanic, and adjusted the plan for the next month. That choice felt like power. By week 6, there was a pattern. Clarity reduced panic, waste cut freed up space, and the automated growth transfers quietly built a cushion. He began to sleep through the night more easily. His partner noticed and joked about his softer jaw. We celebrated with a cheap takeout and a ledger marked green. If this scene echoes in your life, tap like and tell me. What's your biggest struggle? Lack of surplus? Chaos? Or debt? Subscribe gently to follow Markus as he faces the next hurdle and learns how to make that early surplus work harder. The kitchen light is soft, a lamp spilling a warm circle over bills and a laptop. Markus leans forward, sleeves rolled, the same man who for years repeated, "I need to earn more," now whispering instead, "Let's see the map." He opens a simple spreadsheet we built together, nothing fancy, just 3 columns. Fixed, variable, and growth. His fingers trace each number like a crossword clue. His face tightens at first, then eases as he finds patterns. "So this is where the money goes," he says, surprised and oddly relieved. "I always thought it vanished into thin air." I remind him gently that clarity is a compass. We label every line: mortgage, utilities, groceries, subscriptions. Then we hunt the invisible leaks. A streaming service he forgot he still paid for. An extra phone line rarely used. Monthly deliveries he didn't need. He winces at one recurring charge and taps cancel. We laugh softly when he realizes how much his daily coffee ritual added up. Not to shame him, but to show that small comforts aren't enemies when accounted for. That evening, his partner, Anna, walks in, takes his hand, and whispers, "It's like seeing the house from above." They create envelopes, digital ones, for emergency short-term goals and a modest growth fund. Markus sets up an automatic transfer. Every payday, a fixed amount slides into the growth envelope before it can be tempted away. "It feels strange to pay myself first," he admits, "but also calming." We test the second step, eliminate waste. It's decisive, not punitive. He negotiates a better phone plan with a courteous but firm voice, cancels the unused gym membership, and redirects the money toward his growth account. Each small victory is a quiet celebration. A saved 20 here, a reclaimed 30 there. The balance starts to breathe. By week 3, a tiny surplus appears, enough to buy a book on investing, enough to feel like movement. Markus sits back, hands folded, and for the first time in years the refrain changes. "I'm not earning more yet," he says, "but I'm finally making more of what I have." If this resonates, tap like and tell me. What's your biggest financial pain today? Lack of surplus? disorganization, or debt? Subscribe to follow Markus's next test, when an unexpected expense will force a choice that could either break his progress or make it real. The kitchen light hummed as Markus spread receipts across the table like a cartographer mapping a territory he'd always ignored. His wife, Anna, stood in the doorway with a mug, watching him mark subscriptions with a red pen. "You really did sign up for all of this?" she asked, half amused, half relieved. Markus shrugged, a small, tired smile. "I thought each little thing didn't matter. Turns out the little things were the ones stealing my nights." The camera lingers on his hands, calloused from work, steady now as he moves from chaos to order. That week became a ritual, evenings of friendly interrogation with his money. He labeled accounts, renamed digital clutter, and set up 3 simple jars in the app: Essentials, Surplus, Growth. The first victory was almost ritualistic. He canceled a streaming subscription that had quietly renewed for years. Another small win came when he negotiated his internet bill over the phone, the clerk's voice softening when Markus confidently asked for a better plan. Each action added a sliver of breathing room. You could see relief replace the furrow between his brows. But change isn't only about cutting. It's about creating. Markus took the surplus he'd reclaimed and did something surprising. He automated it. "If I don't see it, I won't spend it," he told Anna, and set transfers to move a fixed amount to a savings account each payday. He also chose one modest way to grow, an accessible, low-risk vehicle he could understand, and started with just the size of a weekly coffee. No grand gambles, only consistent, disciplined planting. There were setbacks: a birthday dinner that stretched the budget, a temptation to replace an old phone. In those moments, he repeated a new mantra he'd learned: direction beats urgency. He'd breathe, check the plan, and choose the route that served tomorrow. The transformation was not spectacular overnight, but it was undeniable. His stress softened, his evenings no longer felt like a scramble, and the month's end brought a small, measurable surplus for the first time in years. If this has stirred something in you, give this a like and tell me. What's your biggest financial pain today? Lack of surplus, disorganization, or debt? Comment below. Subscribe if you want to follow Markus into the next phase, where disciplined growth meets an unexpected test that will reveal whether habits can outlast temptation. The kitchen light hummed as Markus spread bills across the table, a ritual that had once felt like punishment. Now it felt like evidence. He tapped the spreadsheet I'd shown him, fingers tracing a row labeled Essentials, and another called Leaks. "I used to ignore this part," he said, voice small but steady. "I thought more money would fix everything." I reminded him gently, "Money follows decisions. You've already decided to look." We worked through the nights, coffee cooling, rain on the window, turning abstract frustration into clear categories. He canceled a streaming plan he hardly used and negotiated a lower rate on his internet. He set one automation: a small transfer from paycheck to a new buffer account every Friday, invisible but unstoppable. The first deposit was only enough for 2 gallons of gas, but when he watched the balance grow the next week, something changed in his posture. Relief arrived in inches, then in a steadier stride. His wife, Sophia, joined one evening, arms crossed, skeptical at first. "Can we really do this without feeling deprived?" she asked. Markus smiled, and for once it wasn't forced. "We're choosing where our money goes," he said. "That's freedom." They agreed on a simple ritual: a 30-minute weekly check-in over tea, lightening the weight of decisions and celebrating small wins. Their children noticed Markus's calmer tone. Neighbors asked what had changed. He told them, "I stopped running after more and started steering what I had." Not every moment was tidy. A weekend outing threatened to blow the budget until Markus pulled back, remembered the plan, and found a lower-cost alternative that still felt like a gift. That tension, wanting to spend versus wanting progress, became his daily test. Over week 4, his buffer hit a milestone: a full week of essential costs safely parked. He stood at the window, the city lights steadier than before, and felt something like quiet pride. If this rings true for you, give this video a like. It helps others find the roadmap. Tell me below, Which pain is yours right now? Lack of surplus, disorganization, or debt? Subscribe to Walk the Last 30 Days with Markus. Next we'll watch how consistent small actions convert into real choices and a visible shift in his life. Morning light cuts across Markus's small kitchen like a promise. He's at the table with a mug that steams and his laptop open to the same spreadsheet that once felt like a confession. Today the numbers don't accuse, they show choices. He scrolls to the safety column and watches the automatic transfer hit. A modest amount at first, but regular. He breathes out as if the house itself can hear the relief. A notification pops up, subscription canceled. Savings plus $24/month. He smiles without meaning to. 3 months ago that ping would have felt like deprivation. Now it sounds like strategy. He remembers the late-night conversation with me. My calm voice, the clean lines of the 3-step rule laid out on a napkin. Organize, eliminate, create, I had said. Small, steady moves beat the frantic chase for a bigger paycheck. He had listened. Then he did the work. He set up a simple budget, found a recurring charge he'd forgotten, called the cable company, and rerouted the rest into a low-cost growth account and an emergency buffer. His partner appears in the doorway, curious. "How are we looking?" she asks. Markus taps the screen and points to a bright green column that reads, surplus. "Not rich," he answers. But for the first time in years, we can see the path. Her face is a mixture of disbelief and hope. They high-five over a cup of coffee like conspirators. Outside, the neighbor's son rides by on a bike Markus used to dream of buying impulsively. He notices the urge to keep up, then remembers the step he learned to take when temptation arrives. Pause, consult the plan, choose direction. He closes the tab for an online storefront and opens his notes instead. Ideas for a small weekend tutoring gig that leverages what he already knows. That extra income won't be a windfall. It will be deliberate growth. There were stumbles. A forgotten birthday that required improvising, an unexpected repair. But each time he reapplied the rule. The result is quiet but profound. Less anxiety, more control, a growing surplus that no longer feels accidental. Markus's story is not about miracle income. It's about a habit becoming his compass. If this resonates, tap like and tell me. What's your biggest financial pain today? Lack of surplus, disorganization, or debt? Comment below, and if you want to see how Markus cements these gains into lasting change, subscribe and join me for the final step. The kitchen is quiet. Morning light slices across the table where Markus keeps a small stack of envelopes, a neat phone screen showing an automated transfer, and a simple notebook with 3 headings. Organize, eliminate, create. He smiles without needing to check his bank app. The tension that used to tighten his shoulders every payday is gone. In its place is a steady calm, the kind that comes from knowing exactly where your money is going and why. "You were right," he says quietly, looking up as if I am there. "It wasn't about earning more. It was about having a plan." I nod, remembering the first time he told me, "I need to earn more," the desperation in his voice. Now he laughs, a small, relieved sound. "I thought the work would solve it," he admits. But this little routine turned work into something that finally grows. We walk through the 3 steps one more time, not as a lecture but as a map. Organize. Simple categories, automated flows, clear priorities. Eliminate waste. The quiet leaks, subscriptions, habits, unclear choices. Cut with steady discipline. Create. Small, predictable actions that compound, monthly contributions, side habits, a focus on margin. 90 days, he tells me, was enough to change the feeling of scarcity into one of control. The numbers followed the feeling. Outside, the neighborhood hums with life. A neighbor waves. Markus waves back without checking his phone. That small freedom matters. It's not a dramatic overnight rescue. It's the sound of a plan working, day after day, stacking into surplus. You don't need fancy investments or a miracle raise, just a rule you follow until it becomes habit. If the story gave you a spark, tap like so others can find it. Now tell me, what's your biggest financial pain today? Lack of surplus, disorganization, or debt? Comment below backhand index pointing down and share one small step you could take this week. If you want the 90-day checklist and the next video where I walk through real examples from people like Markus, subscribe and I'll send it to you. Quiet, practical steps to turn effort into real financial freedom.